butterflies? It's your girl Imani the Superstar. I am a professional music artist, so performing and recording. I am also, a vocal coach and voice healer. And today I am your show host of the Butterfly Experience podcast, where we are all about, as you heard in the intro, divine transformation. I'm trying to remember it. Divine transformation, radical creativity, and deep healing. Yep, got all three. And yes, you are now part of the garden because you're here with me, which means that you are also a butterfly. So make sure you follow the Butterfly Experience podcast and subscribe to us on YouTube as well. Today's topic is 5 tips that I use to build self-esteem. And I really feel like this is important. I'm going to give you all the butterfly backstory as I always do. So the butterfly backstory is, this is important because I was about to say again, but because I'm actually about refilming, but I am always talking about things that I experience personally. And sometimes I'm talking about things that I feel like I mastered, but other times I'm talking about things that I'm literally going through and growing through, and sharing it with y'all as I'm growing through that process. And so self-esteem is definitely one of those things. And some of the big themes and like chapters, things that played a part mostly in my life recently, like the past year, but especially like the past few months, are commitment, which I have an episode on the Butterfly Experience podcast, as well as self-esteem and negative voices. And so again, like speaking on both of those things influence your self-esteem. And I feel like it's a lot of noise, it's a lot of influence on self-esteem and like what it's supposed to mean, what it looks like, how do people know you have it, and it's just a lot of influence and a lot of noise. And it's important to have your own understanding of it and like your own, what it means to you, what it looks like to you. And it's important that you feel it, like mind, body, and spirit as well, minus the influence of like social media, because that's a big one for us, right? As well as like our friends, our family, our partners, what they think. It's really important to develop what self-esteem is to you. And I also talk about the difference between self-esteem and confidence, because those are two different things. Self-esteem, I'll quickly just speak on it, but self-esteem is an underlying feeling of your overall value, and confidence is situational. Like if you're a great singer, you'll be confident singing, but you might not be confident doing stand-up, right? Those are two different things. So confidence is situational. Self-esteem is an underlying, like an overview of how you feel about yourself and your value, just naturally and innately. So yeah, I feel like, and then the other thing that I wanted to share is that as a Black woman, I feel like this is a really important conversation, because how we experience self-esteem and how the process of developing it is something that is different than anybody else that's a part of this country, because of our history, because of our culture and everything that, you know, we've gone through to accept ourselves and to love ourselves in this society, in this country, on this land, with, you know, the presence of colonizers, on top of I forget the other point I was going to make, because I started to think about just other disturbing things. But, on top of everything, we contribute to pop culture and to just everybody. Like, we create a lot, and a lot of who we are is used. So it's important in that complex, interesting relationship that we have an understanding of just what it means to us, because it can feel very like, well, parts of us are celebrated, but only when it looks like this, or when it looks like that, or it's on this person. So yeah, that's a whole nother podcast episode, but I'm saying all of that to bring it to the point of self-esteem is a very important conversation, especially having that conversation with Black women. So that's the topic for today. 5 tips that I use to build self-esteem. And it's a lifelong journey, I personally feel like. So this is where I'm at. What I'm sharing with you is where I'm at and where I would like to go. And just the tips that I use, like I said, as I'm mastering this practice at this big but also small age. So I have this thing that I usually have my notes on, but we're not using as much today. I just have it here because it's cute. I'll actually have the notes on my phone. And the first point, number 1, is people can be better than you at something, and it doesn't mean they're better than you. This was a really, really big one for me, and I'll say it again. People can be better than you at something, and it doesn't mean that they're better than you. And this was really important to me because it immediately made me think of how I used to place my value, measure it by my talent. So I felt like if I could sing good enough, if I could dance well enough, if I could rap well enough, then that would add value to me. And also when it came to like a comparison thing to other people around me, I felt like, well, I have this talent, so I'm in the safe zone. Like at least I can say I'm talented. It's the same thing as somebody being like, well, at least I can say I'm pretty, you know, whatever the case may be. And I've definitely placed my value within the scope of my talent. And I was thinking about like where that came from, and I remember like in my family, I've always felt like just very different, just very like black sheep. And I didn't feel valued in the way that I wanted to. Doesn't mean that my family did not value me, but I didn't feel the love or like the celebration or value that I needed to feel. And a lot of times I only felt it with certain people, whether it was at school or, certain family members, when I was doing something music related. So in my mind, it's like, okay, well, if I'm doing something music related, then I get attention, then I get affection, then I get appreciated, then I get celebrated. And so again, it just tied into that. And then by the time I got to high school and I was at a musical school, and there were other people who could also sing and who were also like talented and gifted and had ambitions and passions, it was like, okay, now where do I find my value? Like, now how do I feel cool or feel like special enough or unique enough? What happens there? And this actually, side note, this is making me think about, I've been having conversations with people close to me about like my rebellious side, and I do believe that part of my rebellion came from feeling like I was overlooked. And I really appreciated how unique I felt when I did something completely different than everybody else. So like part of who I was became, I do shit different. And I don't care about what everybody else is doing, and I'm going to do the opposite. And not even just because it's the opposite, but because I actually like it over here. I like not having to worry about if people, like me or think I'm special or think I'm talented. I like literally not having to care. And so, yeah, that's a side note. I'm not going to, digest that too much. But all of this goes under, again, if people can be better than you at something doesn't mean that they're better than you. And I think the other point that comes up is you have to start to, and I had to do this in 2020. I did this a lot. That's Sandy Money from when we shared the stage together. Yes. Oh, thank you. I love that. But yes, so and this is what I did in 2020 when I put out my first album, Purple. Definitely go listen to that album. It's like literally my favorite album so far. And it's the first one I made. It's my debut one. But when I made that album in 2020, I felt like it had nothing to do with other people. It had nothing to do with me trying to feel valuable, me trying to be toxic, productive. Like, it literally was just because I love to do it. And I had already come to the understanding that I had been living my life and like creating based on trying to create value from my creations instead of feeling like I was already valuable. It's the same thing that I feel like mothers go through where they feel like they don't have any value unless they have a child. And then it's like taking care of that child becomes why they're valuable. And a lot of us artists do that same thing with our careers. If we're not successful to a certain degree in our careers, or we're not committed in this way that everybody feels like we should be, or if we're not outshining other people, more popular than people, more accepted, more celebrated than other people, then we feel like we don't have any value, or we don't feel high self-esteem because nobody's looking at us saying like, I value you, or like, you're great, or doing a great job. And so I don't know how I got here from the original statement, but the point I'm saying is, your value is because you exist. And I feel like that concept is something that people lose sight of a lot and don't really put into practice. It's kind of this like fairy tale thing, but it's like something, whatever you believe in, literally made you and put you here on purpose, because they felt like out of the 6 billion people that are here, for some reason we needed a you. For some reason we needed an Imani. You know what I'm saying? For some reason we needed whatever other butterflies are on this chat. And so it's like, if you had no value and you had no purpose, why would that even be a thing? And that's something I have to think about a lot. And y'all know I always talk about source, I always talk about God. And actually today I was remembering my connection to like Oshun, and just the relationship that we've shared, and diving into that culture and things. And it's like the love that I feel through that, and like Oshun being a person her whole center being around like harmony and things like that, and bringing things together in wholeness. And it's like, you are whole, you are good, you are loved unconditionally, you are where you're supposed to be, you are who you're supposed to be, like you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. And you don't have to feel like because there's somebody who's better at something than you, or somebody who's more developed in this way, or knows how to do this thing, or whatever it is, you don't have to feel like now I'm not valuable, or I'm not loved, or your defense mechanism goes up, or things like that. And I've definitely been that person. Again, this is not the pot trying to call the kettle black. Like, I'm being vulnerable and saying like, I've thought those things, I've felt those things, I still go through that. And you literally have to me coming back to the understanding that God unconditionally loves me literally saves me every time. And if not immediately, very quickly. Just that thought. And I still go through the dis-ease of like feeling, not where I want to be and things like that. Of course, it's still a skill that I'm working on, but at least I can say that, I'm holding this wrong way. at least I can say that the practice of coming back to my self-love is there. Even if I don't always feel it, when I notice that I'm out of it, I can bring myself back to it by remembering my innate value. Like, I'm valuable because I'm here. And that's just with life. So yeah, that's everything I think I wanted to say about that specific, that was just the first one. Okay, the second, so just to reiterate for people who, may have just joined or, want to hear it again, people can be better than you at something, and it doesn't mean they're better than you. And I feel like the tangent I went on didn't really connect with it fully, but like, it's also okay to be in a learning position. And it's also okay to be committed to practice. And I was actually having a conversation with somebody close to me that was explaining how they got better at things and like how they changed reactions and just like their strength level and things by going about it how they feel like they needed to. And I remember expressing how I felt like if it didn't come naturally to me and I was trying to do it, then that was fake. Like, if you already aren't naturally a strong person or naturally a confident person, you trying to be confident or trying to be strong is fake as shit. And that's how I carried it. And it was like, in my head, I'll be like, I should like talk to myself in the mirror, or like I should journal, or I should like pray, or I should try to be this thing that I want to be. But I felt like you having to try was you trying too hard. And it's so funny that I'm bringing it up because I also recently almost lost something very valuable to me because of me feeling like I couldn't strive for it, or it looked a certain way, or it was like being trying too hard, or like just being weird, being strange. And in Philly, that's a big thing. Like, being called weird is a big thing for people. Like, nobody wants to be like, oh, you, and not even weird like weirdo. I mean weird like, you weird. Nobody wants to, be called that, and you can be called that for reasons that aren't good enough reasons. And I think some of us are too afraid of being called weird or strange, or like we try too hard or cringe. Whole other podcast episode. Literally, we're just on number 1. I don't have a whole bunch of time, so let's move on to number 2. Number 2, time alone is imperative. Spending time with yourself to really feel you and remember all those quirky little things about you is important. So I was watching a YouTube video earlier, and this young lady was talking about something that I really relate to. And I feel like sometimes when we are, whether you're in the dating world or you're like in a relationship and then you're out of a relationship, whatever is going on, I feel like sometimes we pay more attention. I know. A lot of times we pay more attention to ourselves, and we spend more time healing and tending to and growing ourselves when we're not in a romantic relationship. And I feel like I've heard a lot of people, whether it was people I was with, whether it was myself, whether it was friends, talk about that whole process of kind of like divorcing yourself in order to marry this other person, and not kind of like bringing yourself along for the journey. And like even myself personally, I'll think about times I was like in a relationship and then I was out of a relationship, and I'll think about the time that I spent with myself, or like the practices that I had, and be like, these are actually things that, and I'm about to tie it to value too, these are things that not only I need to like thrive, but also I remember feeling like, okay, my spirituality, my gifts, my like talents are things that make me feel special naturally by myself, and also in a relationship. So I need to be practicing these things because they're directly connected to my self-esteem. Like, having a relationship with source, with God, with the universe, whatever you want to call it, is directly connected to your self-esteem. Not only because you show yourself your ability to commit to something, but also because that love is unmatched. And I feel like that's something that like having time alone to cultivate it, to then remember the importance of it, to bring it to a relationship, is so important. And then also just outside of that, like I said, remembering the quirky little cute things about yourself. Like, I remember when I would take myself out to like a cafe or something like that, and I'd be like, oh, like, how you like put your toppings on your quinoa is so like weird, but it's so cute, and it's you, and I love that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, different stuff, and having time to just notice those things. I think that they are important, and I think that there's a balance that comes when you are, with family or raising children or in a marriage or whatever it is. I think that is important. And like I said, it connects to self-esteem, because part of you valuing yourself is showing you can't be in a relationship and be like, and just say like, oh, I value you so much, but then you never talk to this person, y'all never see each other, you never do anything for them. Like, it's just like, how can you say that? So it's the same thing with yourself. I feel like if you actually intentionally spend time with yourself, even if it's literally like an hour in the rising or an hour at night, or like in the middle of the day, you just find time for yourself. It don't even always have to be dates. And that's something I've been doing. It's just like, when I do my face routine, I'm usually by myself. I'm usually either talking to y'all, because that's when I make a lot of my episodes for Spotify, or I'm listening to a podcast, or I'm just meditation music, checking in with myself, like whatever it is. And even that moment has made a huge difference. So like I said, I feel like just time alone builds self-esteem. And for all the reasons I just said, like being able to realize what's important to you, to bring to the world, to bring to your relationships, professional and personal, to be able to celebrate those little weird, cute, quirky things about yourself. Like all of us have those things that deserve to be noticed. So yeah, that's what I'll say about that. So far we've said people can be better than you at something, and that doesn't mean that they're better than you. Realizing that time alone is imperative. And then the other thing is not taking things personal. So like sometimes I would feel like if I wasn't chosen or I wasn't picked or somebody didn't comment about something with me or something like that, like, different stuff, that I would feel like, oh, they must not see my value or I must not be good enough. And at the same time that I would internalize it and tell myself I must not be good enough, I would also have venom at them now. Like now I feel like you don't see value and like you must have really like had me fucked up and like all of these other things, when it's like it could have literally genuinely just not be personal. And you just don't have to even go down that rabbit hole. Like you literally don't even have to. And this is something I also learned in relationships too, when it comes to like whether it's somebody walking away or even you walking away or just a separation in general where value is into question. It's just like you have to realize you have to feel, number one, valuable within yourself, which is what this whole thing is talking about, like with the self-esteem thing. But then you also have to realize sometimes when you're dating people and they don't feel like, they like you anymore or just not doing it for them anymore, it really might not even be personal. Like it might have nothing to do with you. It just literally, and even if it does, it just literally might not work anymore. Like you might literally like to party, they literally might not like to, and the morals is different. And instead of you feeling like, well, I must be a whore because I like to go out and shake my ass, and they expressed to me that they feel like that was whorish, you don't have to internalize that. And that literally doesn't have to be true. It could just be something that did not work for them, it did not work for you, and it can just move on. And I think sometimes we make the mistake a lot of, it's a lot of pick-me energy in the air, and that's not shade. I've been somebody who was in pick-me energy before with different things as I've expressed, which is harmful for your self-esteem. There's a lot of pick-me energy going on in ways that we don't realize, and in ways that don't have to do with relationships, other stuff too. People get pick-me energy in spirituality. And so I think that, like I said, I be losing my train of thought because I was already all over the place. Hold up. Oh, not taking things personal. Like not taking things personal is a huge part. You have to realize what you should internalize, what is important, and when you're assuming, when you're jumping to conclusions, when you're putting ideas and having a whole conversation with yourself, not involving the other person. You also got to be, and again, that comes with self-esteem, but also confidence. It's like you got to be confident in yourself. You got to be confident in your own shit. You got to know like that ain't got shit to do with me, and I know how I feel about myself, but that takes time. So yeah, don't take stuff personal. You not being chosen by somebody or something or a business or a company or a job position or a group of people. That's another thing I went through a lot growing up, was like I felt like, especially in my city and the people I was around, I felt like they were consistently choosing each other and putting each other on to opportunities that I presented and then excluding me from it. I went through that a lot. People lying about me, and I was just expressing it to somebody close to me. And it can cause you to feel like I want to be chosen so bad, but I also don't. And like I want to be chosen so bad, but I don't even want to show it no more because I've been not chosen and disappointed so much. And it happens in relationships too, where it's like you get let down so much in relationships that you don't even allow yourself to feel like you want one, because it's like it's not gonna work. Niggas ain't shit. Like that's people's favorite line. So yeah, I think that's actually a perfect segue into the next point, which is, if I'm right, I think it's giving yourself permission to love and be you. So this is one that I recently also have been struggling with, is just like allowing myself to be who I am now. A lot of times and it's the perfect segue because a lot of times we hold ourselves back because we are so loyal to who we used to be, and it feels so awkward or weird or fake to try to be this new thing. And so you force yourself to be stuck because you feel like it's weird to move on, because you're literally loyal to the person you don't even want to be anymore. We do that to ourselves and we do that to relationships. Like, stop being loyal to shit that does not make sense to you anymore. And you being afraid of cringing at yourself or afraid of feeling weird or failing or whatever it is keeping you stuck to something you're not even attracted to anymore. And I think a lot of people could take that advice not only in their relationship with themselves, but their relationship with their careers, their relationship with their jobs, and their relationships with other people. It's really abusive to hold somebody in something that they don't want to be in. And for you to do that to yourself it's harmful, and it's sad, and I don't want people to do that. And I've done that. I've literally been like, oh, this was my identity for so long, it has to keep being my identity. And then I also wouldn't want to switch because I would feel like, well, you just want to switch because you feel influenced to be something different. Like you just flip-floppy, or you just want to keep trying new shit. You can't never just and it's just like, I was looking at something that's on my Instagram story where they were saying like that a partner told this girl, he was like, you basically like don't know what you want out of life. Like you're such a go with the flow type person, and you just don't know what you want. And the therapist was telling her, well, maybe you just create your life as you go, and maybe that's the adventurous, spontaneous, beautiful person that you're supposed to be. But you're so busy trying to be this like structured, this is my goal and this is what I want, and that's not who you are. And some people are balanced, some people are one or the other. You know what I'm saying? I'm learning that there's a balance within me. I can go with the flow, and I can also be, this is what I want to do. But yeah, I think, and that goes back to the influence. There's so much influence about how people are supposed to be and what they're supposed to want, how they're supposed to look, what they're supposed to do with their life. And if you have low self-esteem, you will be easily pulled into some shit that you don't want to be into and probably don't even realize. So yeah, I would just say, like, again, because I'm trying to remember like the main topics. I'll be creating so many mini topics. Give yourself permission to love and be loved. And this is in relationships and like, when you're being honored in your career and all of that as well. Like, you have to start to see yourself as, like, you have to really start to actually see yourself as that person you want to be. Because if you keep treating yourself and like acting like you're just who you were out of this like weird ass loyalty you have to them, it's not, you're gonna stay stuck there, and you're gonna be unhappy because you've been wanting to move on and move into something else, but you're not, and you're remaining stuck. So I don't know if that was all 5. Oh, the last one is, and I'm moving through this fast. Yes. The last one is taking time to polish yourself. And I was just expressing this earlier, that me taking more time to like, whether it's do my makeup or get my nails done or iron my clothes, or just like on a physical level, me taking time to polish myself always makes me feel a lot better. Me learning about my body makes me feel good. Like, all of those things contribute to high self-esteem, and especially the things you do behind closed doors. There's something about knowing that behind closed doors you really be like putting that shit down that really helps you to like walk through the world. Like, I be doing the back end work. Like, when I was rehearsing 3 times a week, 5 times a week, or whatever the case may be, I was walking around like, I fucking know I could sing, because I just was singing for 5 days in rehearsal straight. So I know I could sing. Or when I was working out and shit, I don't work out as much anymore, so I don't work out at all, trying to get back to it. But it's like, you walk in the world differently when you know you doing shit behind the scenes that's not for anybody else to see, but they also going to see it because you're putting the work in. It's going to show. So I feel like that contributes to self-esteem. And then also, when I was talking about polishing yourself, it's not just physical. It's also, again, like I was talking about rehearsing. It's also professionally. It's also personally. Like, it's really just doing the back end work to make sure you can show up in the world as you want to show up. And it's the same thing. Like, people always ask me, like, how are you so confident on stage and stuff like that? That is something that's natural to me, yes. But it's been hella times I was not prepared, and so my confidence was low as shit. Like, I'm getting on the stage, like, I don't know the lyrics, I don't know what I want to do, like, because it was a new song or a new rap or whatever. And I tell my students this all the time with my coaching business, Sing With Me, where I do performance and vocal coaching. It's for rappers too, poets as well. But yeah, I tell my students this all the time. The more you practice, it will add to your nerves, like, decreasing. If you practice a lot, you'll be less nervous. And you could just naturally be nervous, yes. But if you know that shit like the back of your hand, for most of us, it will help. At least you're not about to get up there and worry about forgetting the lyrics, because you literally been practicing this shit for like 2 weeks. So you see what I'm saying? It's the same thing with polishing yourself. Like, when you know, I took care of myself head to toe. Like, and I don't just get ready when I got an event or when I'm going on a date or whatever. It's like, no, I just naturally do this. That, like, a big part of self-esteem is your relationship with yourself. A big part of it is just like, what do you do for yourself? Like, what do you do with yourself? Like, it's a relationship. That's a big part of self-esteem. It's literally, like, self-esteem is a word for a relationship. It's like, you know how there's situationship and there's like romantic relationship, there's all these words for types of relationships. That's what self-esteem is. Self-esteem is a relationship. It's not even a noun or like whatever in the way we would think. It's definitely I mean, that's still a noun, but like, it's definitely the type. It's a type of relationship. If you have a relationship with yourself and it's healthy and it's wealthy and it's thriving and it's growing, or even if it's not, but you're working on it, you have self-esteem. And that's the thing I want to end with. Like, if your self-esteem is not high right now, and I needed somebody to tell me this when I was going through this shit, like 2 years back, a year back, or like even recently when I go through my emotions. For people who feel like they have a low self-esteem, please listen to this real quick. Hope is not lost for you. You will not feel this way forever. Your self-esteem can and will and is growing. The fact that you're even aware of it in the first place is a huge step, and maybe you're not making the decisions to honor it right now, but you're aware of it, and eventually you will muster up the strength to start to build that shit in whatever way makes sense to you. It might not be makeup. It might not be like, presentation or whatever. It might be your self-esteem. Building your self-esteem might be you traveling, might be you moving the fuck away. You know what I'm saying? It might be a new religion. Whatever the fuck it is, but like, and again, it's relationship with self. So decisions that you like, once you, even if it's small decisions over time, like it adds to a bigger picture, but you will not feel this way forever. You will not operate from this space forever. And I can tell you that because I didn't. And I'm still growing. I'm not perfect. I still go through my insecurities. I still fuck up when it comes to how I talk to myself or how I think or handle situations, because I do still go through insecurities. But it's like, also on top of the fact that I want to really say that you won't feel this way forever, the other thing I want to say is you don't have to be ashamed about it. I was so ashamed about my low self-esteem, and it just made me have lower self-esteem. Like, if you have low self-esteem and you're already ashamed about it because you feel like everybody can tell or whatever the fuck it is, you'll have lower self-esteem. And I get that there are people who just never struggle with that in their life. They felt like they was the shit their whole fucking life. Good for them. That's their journey. You don't have to feel ashamed of the fact that it's not yours. And you can do whatever you need to do to build upon it. And I think there's beauty in that. There's beauty in that. There's power in that. There's strength in that. There's love in that. There is amazingness, optimism. There's godlike energy in that. In the fact that you came from this level and you chose or are conscious of wanting and having the desire to get to another level. So like, big ups to you. And if you didn't feel like you had anything to say you were proud of with yourself this far, I hope that hearing this starts to make you feel differently. Because a lot of us, especially women, especially black women, I feel like, again, the way we develop our self-esteem is different than everybody else. And people can act like race is not a thing if they want to. I don't give a fuck if that's what floats your boat and cool for you. But y'all know I'm always going to rock for my people, and I'm always going to speak on it because we're not going to act like it doesn't exist. To be, and like, again, relating it to my people, like to be stolen from, but then also have no systems in place necessarily to help you build something and help you feel validated. It's a wild ass experience to have. And I know that systematic oppression is a thing. And I don't want to, make this about that fully, but it definitely is a thing. And, so our idea and experience with self-esteem is different. And then also just specifically as a woman, like whatever race that you are, our experience with self-esteem is different. And I want you to know that you're not alone. There are plenty of other women who are dealing with this, who are listening to this shit right now and are like, yo, I felt this, I've been through this, I've gone through it, I'm going through it, whatever it is. So like, you're not alone. And sometimes even the person that comes off the most confident, they still be going through that shit too. And that's none of your business necessarily. That's not to make you feel good. It's just to remind you that you're not alone, and focus on your journey. What is your journey? What are you trying to build? Fuck all of the including other people and letting other shit make you feel ashamed or feel embarrassed. Like, no, this is your struggle. Everybody got their struggle. Yours might be self-esteem. Theirs might be a addiction to something, whether it's sex, popularity, whatever it is. Somebody else's might be that they're just not good at their job yet, like, and that's what makes them, or somebody else, it might be their partner makes them feel like shit. Everybody has their own struggle that affects them on a personal level, and you don't have to feel ashamed for what yours is. Nobody's is better than anybody else's. Nobody's is worse than anybody else's. With some shit, okay, yes, but for the most part, when it comes to up here and here, nobody's battle is better than, or like, oh, at least I don't go through, at least I don't have low self-esteem. Like, all right, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, everybody has different struggles, and I'm just saying that to say we don't have to shit on anybody for anything that they go through. And when you focus on yourself and you keep that hope that you will get better, because you'll feel better about yourself, and you work on that, it's absolutely possible. That's probably the part I felt the most passionate about in this whole message. But yeah, so thank y'all for, being a part of this conversation and just tuning in. And I really pray, like, again, negative voices, commitment, and self-esteem is the biggest 3 topics for me right now. And I really hope that me being this vulnerable with y'all and sharing the things that I share with y'all I really hope like it's serving y'all. And I don't be saying that just to pull it on my ass. Like I really do, because I know that it's something that matters. I think it ran out of storage. I know that it's something that matters, and I know that a lot of people go through it. And I feel like God, a lot of stuff, like I went through a lot of shit in my life, and I still be going through a lot of shit in my life. And it be moments like when I get to talk to y'all about it that make me feel like, okay, at least I have a fucking testimony. Like, I be going through that shit for a reason. I was watching a Nicki interview, and then I'll probably end it after this, but I was watching a Nicki interview, and she was talking about how the industry made her the bad guy, and she took it on because not only does she like it, but she was like, nobody else could take that on. Nobody else could do that. I have to do it because I'm the only one who could carry that that weight, or you call it a blessing. It's probably both at the same time, sometimes complicated, but she was like, I'm the only one who could carry that. And I feel similarly when it comes to this. Like, a lot of the things I've been through, I had to go through because I was strong enough for it, so that I could go through it, get through it, and talk to people about it, and put it out, put it in my music, put it in my podcast, put it in the way I treat people. You know what I'm saying? The healing that I've done, the growth that I've done. So I feel like, if you're going through something, please understand that it's probably your fucking testimony. And you know how they be like, oh, God gives his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers, and everybody's like making a joke out of it, like, I'm tired of this shit. And I get it, but that shit is really true. It's really probably supposed to be your testimony. Like, if you wind up having a child and you weren't ready, and you're just like, what the fuck, like, this is too hard, like, you're gonna look up one day and be like, this is my fucking testimony, and this is how having a child made me stronger, and made me better, and made me smarter, and made me more responsible, and made me more money, because I was able to change these integral things about myself, or going to college or whatever it is, and it's so hard, but it's your testimony and it's important. So look at it like that. I really got to get out of here because I'm hitting my mark. I'm right on time. But thank y'all all for tuning in. I'll probably put a part 2 to this out on Spotify, just because I feel so strongly about it and it's coming up so much. But yeah, if I could leave y'all with anything overall from this message, is that high self-esteem and high value and a good relationship with yourself is so fucking possible. And it's so fucking possible for you to have that and still have all the other things you want, like the beautiful romantic relationship with your partner and that marriage, like the job that values you. All of that stuff is possible, and don't let it go. Do not let it go. Thank y'all so much for being here with me. Like I said, please follow the Butterfly Experience Podcast on Instagram and on YouTube, and tune in on Spotify. We post 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And stay tuned for music, because I'm going to be putting some really dope things out very, very soon. And when I post this, share it. Send it to people. Share it on your story, whatever the case may be, so that people can see it, so that we can build an empire of, people with high butterflies, with high self-esteem, who know they the shit, or know they're the sun. Thank you all, and until next time, fly high, butterflies. Don't forget,